remember sharing with this lady for months, just little bits here and there. She kept coming back. And she'd get right down to the wire where we were talking about spiritual things, and she was right at the point where, you know what? She was about ready to make a decision about Jesus Christ, and what she was going to do with Jesus Christ in her life. And every time she would come to that point, she would tense up. She'd start looking around. She'd act almost, her eyes were wild. And she'd say, I gotta go. And I'd say, okay. She kept coming back. I kept giving her the same message. And every time we got to that point, she'd get real scared. And I think, what are you afraid of? In the message last week, we left it right when Jesus calmed the storm. And after the storm, it seems like glass. It was a great calm, but the storm had obviously pushed them off course. And they, by chance, ended up in a place called the Gadarenes. But I want to ask you, if you know anything about God, is there any chance with God, really? Because I know from just studying the work of Jesus Christ, just from the study of his life, that everything was planned out. Everything was by design to demonstrate the mighty power of God. And we find it even in this area that was known as the Decapolis. I want to ask God to just speak to your heart this morning. I don't want you to get caught up in my silly alliteration. I can't even say it. I don't want you to get caught up in just what's before you in an outline. I want God to speak to your heart this morning, so please pray with me that God will do that, okay? Let's pray. Father, I just ask, God, that you will work in a mighty way, that all things will be set aside for a few minutes, that we'll be able to really concentrate on what you have for each one that's here. God, my prayer is that their prayer would be, God, give me something from you this morning. And I'll thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. I like that. You know that song, Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I love to sing your praises. My granddaughter, we had the privilege to have her in our home for the first couple of years. And so she went to church every time we went to church. And that was all the time. And you know what? She heard all these songs. And so when she was old enough to walk, the first thing we did was she wanted to get on this trampoline that was next door. And the neighbors let her get on their trampoline. And she was so pitifully light that it didn't even bounce, you know? You know what I mean with a little kid? And so, but after a while, she got used to this trampoline. I'm telling you all that just to tell you this. I remember one day coming home, and my wife's out there in the backyard watching her next door, and she's bobbing up and down. And she got it just right. She was bopping to this song. And she's singing her heart out, Lord, I lift my name on high, and she's boing, boing, boing. Lord, I love to sing your praise. This little kid, it just blessed my heart to see that. So every time we hear that song, I look back, she smiled, and that's what our little smile was. You see, they are the wonderful little memories that each one of us can have. What's that have to do with this? Nothing. I just threw it in there. It had to do with the song. But what I want to show you this morning here in this outline, and please don't get caught up in the outline. Please get caught up in what the Spirit can teach you. But in this outline, I want to show you first of all the arrival. And because you see, they're going into a new place. Jesus is expanding the scope of his ministry. And he's traveling to a threatening, to a pagan, to a Gentile land on the east side of the Sea of Galilee. He enters a town that is obviously not filled with those of the Jewish faith. You see, those of the Jewish faith, see, under the law, they would have nothing to do with pigs. Amen? You understand that, right? That's part of the law. is considered an unclean animal to those of the Jews. So the first question they ask is, are they Gentiles? Are they heathens? We know that they are not Jews because they were raising pigs. They arrived at the country, and if you look in your Bible, look at verse 26. That's why I want you to just kind of follow me. Just look at we'll do a little Bible study here as we go. And this is the beauty, this is the greatness of expository preaching. You take verse by verse. And it says in that verse that they traveled to this place called the Carides, the Decapolis, the heathen land. And we find here that it says, which was opposite of Galilee. And what does it mean, opposite? You need to ask yourself questions, about opposites. And Galilee was a region filled with those of the religious faith of the day. They were Jews. And so the opposite of that would be this land of the Gentiles on the other side of the lake. Are they Gentiles? They're opposite. Galilee was a region filled with religious Jews. The Gadarenes were not. It was the opposite of a God-fearing land. The people of this land, of this area, didn't expect Jesus to come. His arrival was not announced. There wasn't any fanfare. There wasn't, the one who met him there was a person who you would want to meet. You wouldn't want to meet this person. Good. You going to help him, Mark? Good. All right. He was from the town, obviously, but he didn't live in the town. He was naked. He hadn't worn clothes in a long time. He wasn't living in a house. In fact, he was living among the cemetery, among the tombs. And if you look at the account from all the harmony of the Gospels, you find that he was bound repeatedly, but he breaks the chains. He ends up terrorizing anyone who comes near him. And the people of the town, they obviously learned to tolerate him. They had gotten used to his screams, and they no longer try to tame him. They do quite often what we do today, is they choose to just ignore him. Let him be out there. We'll just stay away from that area. Well, that's the arrival. But I called the second part, verses 27 through 31, I call that the amusement. Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes when I put a message together, I get amused. And I think the reason that we have the privilege of knowing what happens after it happens. We know the result. We know the end of the story. And so instead of looking at it with astonishment like these, I am amused because I just want to picture myself being maybe one of his disciples in that boat. I mean, you're going across, you're a seasoned fisherman, and you have the life just scared right out of you by the storm, which you've been in storms all the time, but this storm is so ridiculously bad that it just scares the life. So you're already shaken from that. Now Jesus just calms everything. That's got to just astonish them. And now they're wondering, who is this guy? And they come to the shore, and they're obviously blown way off course. But they're coming exactly where Jesus wants to go. And they get here, and look what they discovered in verse 27. He stepped out of the land, and he was met with a certain man of the city who didn't live in the city. Remember, he lived among the tombs, who had demons in him for a long time. And as Jesus stepped ashore, there was this piercing scream. And a wounded, naked man ran towards them. And I don't know about you, but I kind of picture this. And I bet these disciples are stepping back into the boat, thinking, what in the world is going on here? His hair's matted, his eyes are wild and wide. He lived out in the cemetery and in the wilderness. His wrists, his ankles, had the remains of broken chains and ropes where they previously unsuccessfully tried to restrain him. He was covered with scars, according to Mark's account, from the fact that he was so tormented he would cut himself with the stones, often. And he ran up to them, and he threw himself at Jesus' feet. That's scary. That's demons. Now, here's where it gets amusing. Hollywood has a lot to answer for how we picture demons today. I mean, you just think about it. The movies portray them as ghostly monsters, imaginary ghosts, pointy little, pointy-tailed characters perched on your shoulder with this pitchfork. Ghostbusters was a great movie, I made a big joke about it. But that's not what they are at all. Chuck Swindoll, he puts it this way. He says they're real, but invisible creatures, powerful, but not all powerful. You see, demons are they're the devious, they're the insidious servants of Satan himself, the ruler of this world. And just like him though, they are limited in their authority. And unfortunately, in our society, many people, they treat demons with two unhealthy ways. And they're both polar opposite. C.S. Lewis put it nicely when he wrote in the Screwtape Letters. He said, there are two equal and opposite errors into which our race can fall about demons or devils. One is to disbelieve their existence. The other is to believe and feel an excessive and unhealthy interest in them. You see, either way, the demons are equally happy if you look at them that way. Some people today disbelieve the existence of demons completely. They try to explain everything away by science and by coincidence or fate. They're called the materialists. They only believe in things they can see. Things made of the physical material. And that's why they struggle to believe God. Now I understand that, because I was like that. Other people have this obsession with Satan and demons. And the proper understanding of demons is that they exist and they are real. They're very real. They are powerful. They can take control of a person physically, as this account shows us. But as Christians, we need to remember that unlike the demons that serve Satan, who has limited power, you and I that know Jesus Christ, we serve the living God who is all power. He has unlimited power, and we don't need to be scared. We don't need to be intimidated by demons, as you will see in this text. So that's what they discovered. Well, not only did they discover, but in verses 28 and 29, look what they declared. In verse 28, when they saw Jesus, they cried out, they fell down at him, and with a loud voice, they said, what have I to do with you? Jesus, Son of the Most High God? How did they know his name? I don't want you to miss this. The demonic here, he fell down before Jesus, and he acknowledged him as Jesus, the Son of the Most High. You see, demons, speaking through the man, they didn't fall to worship Jesus in reverence. They fell in submission and obedience to him because they acknowledged him as the Most High God. And they knew who Jesus was when they were in his presence. You see, James 2:19, it says there, you believe that there is one God and you do well. But even the demons believe and tremble. You see, you can say, well, I believe in God. But you know what? Even the demons believe and tremble. But here's what I want you to get. Because the demons, because of their fear of the Lord, they fell before him at his feet. And I want to tell you something quickly about God, and it's there. It's in Philippians 2:10 and 11. And in Philippians 2:10 and 11, it's going to tell you this, because you can say, well, I'm not going to bow before anyone. I've had people tell me that. And all I can do is go back to this passage, and it says in Philippians 2:10 that at the name of Jesus, someday every knee shall bow, of those in heaven and those in the earth and those under the earth, and that every tongue shall confess that Jesus Christ is Lord to the glory of the Father. Amen? People can say whatever they want. I was guilty of that. I had a big mouth. Thirdly, I want you to see what was determined. This is really crazy. In verse 30 it says, you know, they pleaded with them. In verse 30, Jesus said, what's your name? And they said, their name is Legion, for we're many. For there were many demons that entered in them, the narrator said. And they begged him that he would not command them to go out into the abyss. You know, Jesus, he asked them what his name was. You see, a legion in that day, it represented in the Roman army, it could represent as many as 3,000 to 6,000 men. And because it represented a large body of men, the word legion, it came to be used symbolically to an indefinitely large number. So there was a lot of demons in this guy. Are you with me? And Luke then notes that the demons begged Jesus not to command them to depart into the abyss. You see that in verse 31? The abyss is the place of the dead. Romans 10:7 refers to it as the place of the dead. Revelation describes it as the bottomless pit where Satan and his demons will be condemned in Revelation 21 through 3. The demons know that this is their final destiny. They know that their doom is sure. They know that one day they will be cast into this place of terrible and everlasting torment. This place is in Revelation 21:8. Lake of fire. Some may not believe in hell, but I want to tell you something this morning, folks. The demons certainly do. And we should believe in hell too. And repent before it's too late for us, like it already is for them. The third thing that we find here, then, is the agreement. And here's another thing, you know, like I said, you know, this is just, it's kind of mind-boggling to me. Because I want to show you here in verse 32 what they decided. Now, there was a herd of swine in verse 32 feeding on the mountain, and he begged them that the demons begged him that they would permit him to enter into the swine. And Jesus said, okay. And then the demons went out of the man and entered the swine, and the swine went nuts. And they ran down a steep bank into the lake and they drowned. Jesus, he delivered a man in a way that seems strange. A large herd of pigs was feeding on the hillside. The ones tending to the herd were watching this whole thing. And the demons begged Jesus to let him enter into the pigs, so he gave him permission. You notice that? The demons came out of the man, entered the pigs, the herd rushed down the steep bank, and they drowned in the lake. The first thing I want you to see here is that Jesus gave them permission. You see, demons, they're not at the liberty to do whatever they please. They are allowed. I call it allowed. I don't know how else to explain it, but that's how God, He allows. And demons they're not able to do anything apart from God's permission. Secondly, Mark, if you don't got to go there, but Mark tells us that there was about 2,000 pigs. That's a lot of pigs. That's a lot of bacon. I don't know about you, but I'm thinking bacon. The third thing I want you to observe here, just think of this for a moment. Be aware that some people find this action of Jesus very offensive, especially the skeptics today. You want to pick the Bible apart, they'll find stories like this, and they'll say, well, I find that very offensive that he would send those demons into those pigs, those poor little piggies. And it is better to say, you know what? I think it's better to say that pigs, they lived and they died for the glory of God. I don't know about you, but I've been on the farm. My brother had raised pigs. He called it Macon Bacon Farm. So I was very, intrigued with the pig. I spell farm E-I-E-I-O. So just so you know, I'm not a farmer. But I was very intrigued with these pigs. I was there the day of the slaughter. I said, what was his name? I couldn't believe it. But it's a normal thing. You raise pigs, and then you process them, and then we eat them. Now here's what I look at. I look at these as the fine swine. They're the most famous pigs in history. I mean, what other herd of pigs can claim that they have demonstrated the divine power of Jesus Christ over the powers of darkness in hell? He cast out the demons as easily as he commanded the sea. He is the ruler of both the natural and the supernatural realm. God has the choice to do whatever God chooses to do with his creation. And in order to prove this, he permitted the demons to enter the pigs. The one thing I want to see here is, what? I see a compassion in Jesus even for the demons. They're pleading with him, please don't send us to the abyss. We don't want to go. So he said, all right, you can go into the swine. He didn't say, oh, it's my idea to send you to the swine. They were saying, send us into the swine. Another way of looking at it for these, if you want to just kind of represent the pig this way. Think about those pigs. The demons went into pigs. And what did the pigs do? They went nuts. They said, there's no way I'm going to let these demons out. You know what? I would rather kill myself than live in the possession of a demon. I think a lot about those pigs. And I have to say today, that they were the greatest pigs of history. How about you? Amen? And people can get all kinds of ideas about that. This way, everyone could witness what happened when they saw the unseen world come to life with these spirits through these pigs. Jesus had delivered the man from his demons. The people of the area, when they saw this demon-possessed man, they had no idea how to handle it. They tried to bound him. They tried to keep him from killing himself. They tried all these things. They didn't know what to do. They finally just let him out there. Don't know what to do. But the pigs were an essential part of demonstrating the full extent of the miracle that had taken place. And that leads us to 34 through 36, which is the amazement. And I am often amazed at how God works. Often amazed. In verse 34, it says, and when those who fed them saw that what had happened, I'll tell you what, they were amazed, weren't they? Could you imagine just feeding the pigs and feeding the pigs and feeding the pigs, and all of a sudden, knowing that maniac, seeing him rattling around there and staying away from him, and all of a sudden, seeing this whole thing transpire right before your eyes. They were amazed, all right, at what they detected. And I want to tell you, they ran to that town, and I bet you they wanted to be sure that people knew who owned those pigs that they had nothing to do with what happened out there along that Galilean Sea. They were amazed at what they detected. In verse 35, they were amazed at what they discovered. Then they went out to see what had happened. And they came to Jesus, and they found the man from whom the demons had departed, sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind. I don't know about you, but regeneration of a soul delivered from Satan and sin is an awesome thing. Darrell Block summarized the transformation of this regeneration, this made new. He said, in a complete reversal of the previously possessed man's demeanor, he is now clothed. Whereas before he had been naked, he is now seated. Whereas before he had been roaming, he is now associating with others as he sits at Jesus' feet. Whereas before he sought solitude, he is now in sound mind. Whereas before he was crying out in a loud voice, he is now comfortable in the presence of Jesus. Whereas before he wanted nothing to do with him. Luke says that this man was in his right mind. Now I know that you know after 10 years that you would look at me and sometimes think, I beg to differ whether you're in your right mind. If you know me. My wife would vouch for you. So there are things I get ideas about and try to do, and it's like, are you in your right? What mind? Where is that coming from? But isn't it wonderful? Isn't it a wonderful expression of what happens when Jesus transforms a life? A person. As an unbeliever, I used to think that Christians were out of their mind for believing in Jesus. But actually, I as a non-Christian was one of those who was really out of my own mind. And it's only when people become Christians by the transforming power of Jesus Christ that they are actually placed in their right minds. This is a wonderful picture of what happens in salvation. I guess my question this morning is, have you experienced this transformation? Well, they were amazed at what they detected. They ran and got other people to cover themselves. They came back and were amazed at what they discovered. But thirdly, I want you to see here that we are amazed at what they dreaded. If you follow that along there in verse 36, it says, or verse 35 at the end, it says that there he was in his right mind, and look at their reaction. In verse 35, look, right at the end. They were afraid. They also, who had seen it, told them by what means he who had been demon-possessed was healed. And the whole multitude of the surrounding region of the Gadarenes asked him to leave. Astonishingly, Luke says in verse 37 that all the people surrounding the country of the Gadarenes, they asked him to depart from them, for they were seized with a great fear. They feared what they could not understand. Legion was not the only demon in this story. Fear was the demon that controlled the people. Fear was the demon that controlled that woman that I witnessed to for 6 months. She got right down to the wire, and she got scared to death, and I couldn't imagine what she was afraid of. I mean, it certainly couldn't be me. She was gripped with a fear. presence of Christ cost them rather than what the absence of Christ would cost them. When they arrive, they find this demonized man transformed. He's no longer naked, he's clothed. He's no longer running around nuts. He's sitting calmly at the feet of Jesus. He's not crazy anymore. He's in his right mind. And you know what? They were scared when they saw that. What are they scared of? Well, not the same things the demons were scared of. You know why? Because they didn't know that Jesus was the Son of God. Obviously, they do have no idea who the Son of God is. But they are scared at the report displayed of the power and obviously transformed this demonized man. These people are probably like most people in the world today. That they are scared, first of all, because they don't understand this power that transformed lives. They think it's like somebody's messing with your mind and just brainwashing you. That's what I used to think. Yeah, you guys are just weak. You got to go follow somebody. What we don't understand, we often are scared of the things we don't understand. Are you with me? If you don't understand it, you know what? Often you're afraid of it. That was a lesson that we learned last week when the disciples were called to have faith instead of fear. But also people are scared because this power to transform lives, it threatens to affect their lives. You know, they're scared to let that happen. Jesus, his confrontation with the demons, it resulted, yeah, it did. 2,000 pigs were killed. There's no doubt about it. That had to cost somebody a lot of bucks. And it would affect them too. Now, I'm sure the rest of those people of the town, they were wondering, you know, if we let this guy stay, what's going to happen to us? My question is my life going to be impacted by this guy, Jesus? Now, the impact of Jesus wasn't necessarily going to be negative. I mean, for the demonized guy, it was definitely a plus, wasn't it? But the people were still fearful of the potential negative implication. You see, it's a matter of priorities. And in their situation, you know, I guess if you were in their situation, what would you do? Would you be looking at the man sitting at the feet of Jesus, or would you be looking at the 2,000 pigs in the lake, thinking, there goes our livelihood? You'd probably be looking at the pigs. Most people would. But what I want to show you here in this passage is so interesting. God's transforming power. I think for most of us, we'd be looking at the pigs representing the lost if we didn't know the Lord. But let me put it in modern day language for you. When Jesus transforms a life, things around them change. Sometimes their activities have to change. They're no longer going to go out drinking on Saturday night and then have a hangover Sunday morning. They're no longer going to get up and go fishing Sunday morning. You know, they're going to go to church. Sometimes their lifestyle is going to change, and they no longer put a priority on working out, you know, ridiculous hours to try to earn that bigger boat, you know. Sometimes their ambitions change. Sometimes their attitudes towards others change, you know. All this stuff. This word humility comes into play. It's like, I don't know. I don't understand. I don't know if I can do this stuff. Would you be willing to give up your activities? Would you be able to give up your lifestyle, your ambitions, your attitudes to allow God to transform your life? These are the things that God hit me with. When I was deciding whether I was going to make this decision to trust Christ. I guess if you want to put it in the text today, or in modern context here, are you willing to give up your pigs? Your activities, your lifestyle, your ambition, your attitude? I had to contemplate that. Look at the animosity in verse 37. We're almost done. Interestingly, we might expect that people asked Jesus to leave because of the pigs. That's what you would think, but you know what? That's not what the scripture. Look at your word of God. Look what it says. In verse 37, the whole multitude surrounding the region of the country, they asked him to depart from them, for they were seized with great fear. And he got in the boat and he left. You would think it was because of the pigs, but it wasn't. They asked Jesus to leave. They rejected him because they were scared through ignorance. The people, they could see what Jesus had done. They could see the man's transformation by the power of Jesus, and they wanted nothing to do with it. So they asked him to leave, and you know he did. He did leave. And as far as we know, he never returned there. However, they would still have an opportunity again to hear the good news of God.